Today's a very exciting day because it is time for my annual one and done eyeshadow video. This is basically the only type of eyeshadow that I wear, so I have so many recommendations for you. I also tested out a lot of new ones in preparation for this video, so I have some new favorites, but also some carryover favorites that I've been loving for years. I've got all different finishes from matte to satin to super glittery, and I applied demo clips of every single one of these on my eyes, so let's jump in. Let's kick it off with stick eyeshadows, which typically are not my favorites, but that's how you know that these are good. And starting with the one that is on my eyes right now, this one is newer to me. This is from Kaja, and it is their Wink Dazzle stick. So this one, maybe I'm cheating because it's technically a dual-ended stick. So on one side you have a traditional eyeshadow stick, and this one is matte. Some of them have a shimmer stick. It depends. I kind of like that this has a matte stick because on the opposite side, you have this little sponge applicator and you have sparkles. So you can just tap this on the inner corner, tap it all over the eyelid, and you really have the option of doing just a simple matte look with the shadow stick. Or if you want to take it to the next level, you can add the shimmer. Sometimes I like using this for like an inner corner or even just to like highlight the center of the eye, or you could go all over the eye. Like truly, the possibilities are endless, and I feel like this just gives you a lot of bang for your buck because you can wear it just as a matte eyeshadow stick. And then I love the like wet sparkle effect from this side. I have to say, applying sparkles with a sponge type of applicator like this always increases the impact. So even if you have those like old school eyeshadow, the little sponge tips that you used to get an eyeshadow that people would throw away, like using those or any type of spongy product like that to apply a shimmer amps up the impact big time. Two more shadow sticks. Let me start with the matte version. This is a carryover, an old favorite, but that's how you know, like, this is a classic for me. This is the Pixie matte eyeshadow stick in the shade Matte Cognac, and it is like the perfect shade of brown. And this is one of my most traveled with products when I just want something I can throw in my bag, haphazardly run across the eye, tap out with my finger, and then have an eye look. Like, it's the perfect shade of brown. And interestingly enough, this was actually a gift from a friend who also swears by this and wears it like every single day. And we have different skin tones and we still both love this for an everyday shadow. She's a bit more of a medium skin tone, so for her it's a little bit closer to her skin tone. But for me, I feel like it gives this like kind of smoky look. I'm using smoky very loosely here. It just gives a little bit of impact and intensity to the eye without being too much. Okay, but if you like mega sparkle impact, this from Half Magic shocked me. I didn't think an eyeshadow stick could be this sparkly. For the most part, an eyeshadow stick, you can get like a beautiful satin look, but it's hard to get like flaky, glittery, chunky sparkles in a stick like this, and yet somehow they did it. This is really pretty on its own, or if you want to do more than one shadow look, like sometimes I like to take a matte, run it through the crease, maybe even build up some dimension in the outer corner, and then just kind of draw this on the inner corner for some intensity. And I feel like it's really beautiful that way. You could use this a lot of different ways. It's also pretty layered on top of other shadows to amp up the sparkle there. Those were the eyeshadow sticks, but now we're getting into the pans. And I have a ton of favorites here, and I have a mixture of both creams and powders. But before we get into those, a quick thank you from today's sponsor. I am so excited to say that today's video is sponsored by Kosas. Oh my gosh, this feels like such a fun full circle moment for me because we're gonna be talking about their iconic revealer concealer, and I actually went back to the first time that I talked about this product on my channel, which was in 2021, and I even said in that video that I finally picked this up after so many subscribers were mentioning it to me, saying it was their favorite. And in that same video, I ranked it against all the other new products at that time and gave it the #1 spot. But the best part is since then, they've released so many new shades and undertones, and you can see such a big difference between my eye without the revealer concealer and my eye with the revealer concealer. It does such a good job at canceling out any dark circles on your under eyes, but it's also not heavy or thick. It's not gonna settle into your lines. But then I paired that with one of my newer favorites from Kosas that I actually mentioned in my best of 2024, the Cloud Set powder in the shade Candy. So the original Cloud Set powders have been my favorite forever now. Like, you can see the giant pan I have on the shade Breezy. And in 2024, they released tinted versions of these to help really brighten the under eye. And I'm telling you, when you pair the revealer concealer with these shades shade Candy or your corresponding shade of the Cloud Set powder, it just cancels out any darkness. The under eyes pop. It's really brightening, but it still has that same gorgeous smoothing, diffusing property that I love about the original powders. If you're shopping the Revealer Concealer or their new Extra Bright Revealer Concealers, you can get 15% off with my code KELLY15. Thank you so much to Kosas for sponsoring this video, and let's jump back into it. Okay, let's start with the cream eyeshadows. And right off the bat, I'm kind of cheating because this isn't necessarily a cream eyeshadow, but I feel weird putting it with the powder eyeshadow category because it's a unique formula. And it's called the water eyeshadow. And it is a powder eyeshadow, but it's also amplified by water. So it's this very weird consistency. I will say, I love it even on its own without bumping it up with water. So this shadow I have in the shade 200. Oh my gosh, it is like the perfect, like beautiful everyday champagne tone. I really like this on its own without using the water property of it. I have to say, like, I like this for every day. Just dip my finger in and tap it on. It gives a more subtle, refined, like satin look. But if you are into metallic high impact, you take like a little drop of water on here and it almost forms a paste. You mix it up, apply it with a brush, and you get major impact, high intensity. So I really wanted to include this recommendation because you could go both ways. Like if you want to wear this for every day, just very subtle, you can apply it very lightly with your finger. Or you can take it to the next level and get high metallic impact with this. So I just feel like not only is this beautiful for every day, but it's also very versatile. Okay, a bit of a splurge, but I do think it's worth it. These scattered light shadows from Hourglass, and specifically the shade Smoke is so pretty for that bronzy look. This one I feel like is gorgeous for like a night out. You want to go out and look glam, sparkly, this is perfect for that. It also very much could be worn for day to day, and I absolutely have done that, but this is one I wear when I really want to like step it up and look sultry for nighttime. Really, any of the shadows in this line are perfect for that, but this shade in particular I feel like makes brown eyes really pop. The texture is almost kind of spongy. I would say it is similar, not the same at all, but somewhat similar to like a less wet, like less damp version of the Super Shock shadows from ColourPop, where the formula has a little bit of moisture to it. That being said, my biggest tip, always keep these little plasticky pieces that it comes with. It helps it to not dry out as quickly. Okay, a polarizing one. Not everyone likes these, but I really do love the shadow, and it has been an absolute favorite of mine for years. Like, wait till you see the dip on this. The Merit Solo Shadows, truly one of my most used products in my collection. This comes with me all the time. I travel with this so often. Like, really, if I'm traveling, it's just gonna be with one of these two. I'm either taking the Merit Solo Shadow or this Pixi shadow stick. And the shade that I love in this is Studio. Most of the shadows in this line are quite neutral. This is an interesting texture. It almost feels like a clay. Because of that, it dries down very quickly. You do not have time to like set this down and then go do another task and come back. Like, it will be set and it's not gonna blend out. So you do have to move quickly, but I don't mind that about it because it sets down and it doesn't budge. So this is one of my favorites if I know it's gonna be like very humid, very hot. I don't wanna deal with something that's gonna be like sliding around my eyes. This is the one that I reach for. But the thing about this formula, I feel like it only works as a solo shadow, which I guess is in the name. They call it the solo shadow, but it is not a product I would take and then start applying other shadows on top of and trying to do an intricate eye look. The formula just does not lend itself well to that type of look. But as a one and done shadow that is not gonna budge, like, this is something I'm always reaching for. Moving into powder shadows, I'm gonna start with slightly more neutral ones and we'll end with some pops of color. It wouldn't be a single eyeshadow video if I wasn't talking about Urban Decay Space Cowboy. This has been the internet's favorite, honestly, for a long time now, but it has regained popularity in the last few years. I've had this so long. This is the original packaging. This has been a go-to favorite of mine for years and years and years. It really is worth the hype if you like that wet look. That being said, it is slightly more subtle than some of its competitors. If you like something really bold, hyper sparkly, there are other options that amp it up. But what I really like about this are the different sizes in the glitter reflex. I just feel like they bounce off the light in a really pretty and unique way that literally looks wet on the skin. And I feel like this is a sparkly look for someone who doesn't want to go too sparkly. You know, you don't necessarily want like large glitter particles, but you want that really reflective, cool, wet look. This is the one. But as we know, a lot of brands have tried to dupe it. I do think the dupes, nothing is like quite the same, but one that I really like as an alternative but not a dupe is the version from e.l.f. So these are their Fine as Fleck eyeshadows, and the shade that I wear so much, and you can see I have a pretty big dip in it, is the shade White Hot. Now, the shade that's supposed to dupe Space Cowboy is the shade Champagne Showers, and this one is fine. And just for comparison's sake, I did swatches between all three, Space Cowboy and Champagne Showers, which are supposed to be dupes, but you can see the base color is slightly different on Champagne Showers, and the size of the glitter particles varies a tiny bit. And then White Hot has even less of a base, and the sparkle colors are more like whitish silver. But White Hot is my favorite. It is like basically just white glitter particles. So this ends up being such a cool look. There's so many days I wear it just on its own, just kind of like tapped onto the eye, or I would go for a super sparkly inner corner, or it's the perfect topper if you're doing a more intricate eye look or you're layering other shadows underneath. You pop this over top, it amps it up. But this is much like Space Cowboy, where the base on it is pretty transparent. So it's not necessarily gonna change the color. It's not gonna add much color. It's just gonna add sparkle. And then a major favorite for me is this one from Jones Road. This is their shadow in the shade So Pretty. In the pan, it's like a silver. And if you apply a very thick layer of this on its own, you do kind of get that silver look. But if you tap it on and go with more of a light hand, you can get this really fun scattered effect. So again, I really like the versatility here. And let me just say as an aside, if you like the look of a scattered eyeshadow, the best way to achieve it is to do a tapping motion. So you barely even want to pick any up. Just like reach in there, get a little bit on the skin, and then start tapping it over. That way you get the glitter particles as opposed to swiping it on the skin, which results in a more metallic look. Even just looking at this on my hand, I'm like, it's so pretty. It has these beautiful silver sparkles to it. It's almost kind of blue. Again, it's gorgeous on its own. It's the perfect sparkle topper coat if you want to wear it that way. It is just such a great and underrated eyeshadow. Okay, and for the colorful shadows, let me start out with a very inexpensive option. This is from the brand J.Cat, and this is another attempt at an Urban Decay Moondust dupe, but in my opinion, this definitely comes closer than the e.l.f. Moondust dupes. This formula is called the Fairy Dust Duochrome, and I have mine in a purple shade called Pixie Shift. There is this really beautiful gold shade I have been wanting to get, but it has been sold out on the Ulta website for so long. Every time I'm shopping, I like look, it's still not there, but I do love this purple shade as well. Even in the pan here, you can see the reflect and the shift on this. It's both purple and blue, but the base is still not that noticeable, so it's a really beautiful topper as well if you want to use it in that way. I've used this just as like a light purple sparkle over the eye. These really are so pretty. And it is kind of similar, but a little bit different than this other purple that I'm going to recommend. This is again from Half Magic, and it is their eyeshadow single in the shade Blushing Lizard. So these are interesting. This is literally just an eyeshadow pan that comes in like cardboard. So sometimes I worry about the packaging. It doesn't feel like super sturdy, and I don't necessarily love this packaging, but I do appreciate that it is compostable. It's definitely less waste than a lot of plastic packages that other things come in. And you could also take this out and put it into a magnetic palette. I know a lot of people choose to do that. Now these are both duochrome purple shades, but the J.Cat one pulls a lot more blue, whereas this one pulls a lot more pink. It's interesting too because in the pan they look like they would be such similar shadows, but when you swatch them out, I think they are so different. This one has such beautiful sparkle to it. It gives that wet look on the skin, especially if you like layer it up. Oh my gosh, it can get so intense, so beautiful. And this is a good introduction to colorful shadows, I would say. If you tend to wear a lot of neutrals, but you want to step outside your comfort zone, I know in the pan you're like, it's a straight up purple, but on the eye, I don't think it's screaming purple. It just turns, or like, what am I saying? As you turn, you can see the flip of color on the eye. It's a bit more subtle. It's a beautiful introduction to color if you want to branch out. I feel like this is the perfect shade for a neutral lover who wants to wear color. Let me know your favorite one and done shadows. If there are any more you think I should pick up and try. Thank you again to Kosas for sponsoring today's video, and I will go ahead and see you in my next one. Bye.